is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you it's all about choices. Welcome in. We are live here on this Tuesday afternoon, just 48 hours away from the NFL draft. Appreciate you making A to Z part of your daily sports listening experience. Give me a follow on Twitter at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. And make sure you follow Locked On Sports Atlanta at Locked On ATL. Dave Choate of the Falcoholic going to join us coming up here in the next segment. And of course, we have a lot to do referencing the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks game 5 tonight coming up. We'll do all that before the end of the show. But I do want to start with the NFL draft and Terry Fontenot and the challenge that is in front of him right now and Arthur Smith and what they have in front of them. And really, you know, I keep saying, and I've said this to a bunch of guests who are going to be on the show, like I just for once want it to be easy and obvious for the Falcons, right? And let's go back to the second year, 2016 draft for the Atlanta Falcons. In the year that they drafted Vic Beasley, okay? I'm sorry, that was 2015 rather. It was the first year of Dan Quinn because they were drafting, I think it was 8 or 6 overall. They were in the top 10 because they were bad. But anyway, I say all this to say that they drafted Vic Beasley. And at the time, and don't play revisionist history here on me, folks, nobody objected to the pick other than Georgia fans screaming that they should have taken Todd Gurley, right? When they had already had a running back in Devonta Freeman who hadn't blown up to that point, but they certainly had running backs that they were comfortable with. Other than Georgia fans saying that, and that wouldn't have worked out all that well either because both Vic Beasley and Todd Gurley is just almost out of the league at this point, but he's completely ineffective at this point in his career. So from that standpoint, there really was no other option. Like everybody was comfortable with Vic Beasley. It made sense. It was a fit. It was a need. Nobody really objected to it. And that's kind of what I want. I hope it is a situation where Kayvon Thibodeaux falls to 8, right? Like it's just obvious. How do you pass it? Like just take him. What I don't want there to be is no wide receivers taken. Kayvon Thibodeaux to be there. One of the 2 offensive tackles, Nneka Mekwonu or Evan Neal to be there. Like I don't need that kind of chaos for the Falcons as somebody who's watching this thing. And I don't think Terry Fontenot wants that kind of chaos because in reality, I would hope that the amount of second guessing is limited. The amount of people who are going to look back at the draft and go, he made a bad pick. Like there were so many other options out there and he did it wrong. To me, that is the worst case scenario for the Falcons. I think I've made a clear argument, and I'll probably do it again tomorrow and on Thursday, as I reiterated over and over again. If you're listening for the first time, I've made a clear argument for every position that the Falcons have. The one position they absolutely cannot take is wide receiver, and no punters and kickers don't count, so don't ask. They cannot take a wide receiver. It's just derelict. It's inexcusable at this point for 2 years in a row to draft a pass receiving target for a quarterback and an offensive line that can't do it. It's the bottom line. Like it's just this isn't about best player available when you have other clear pressing holes. Forget need. You have actual vacancies. You don't have bodies there right now that can actually play at an NFL level. So there is no reason, there is no excuse for taking a wide receiver. That said, I think there's obviously an argument for pass rusher. There's a great argument for offensive line. Clearly, anybody in the defensive secondary is fine. Cornerback, safety, I think those are all good. Linebacker, yes, they need linebackers. Absolutely, they desperately need linebackers. But I don't know that there's one projected that high at 8 that really they could take one there without being second guessed. And same thing goes for running back. They need a running back, but clearly you can't take one at 8 overall without being second guessed. Other than that, they're not going to take a tight end. We know that. But any pass catching threat at this point, to me, it's all the same. Doesn't matter. So I just want it all to be very simple for them. And I hope it is. I hope Terry Fontenot gets the obvious pick staring him in the face. It doesn't have to be sexy because if it's an offensive lineman, it's not a bad pick. It's not going to put butts in the seats at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. No one's really going to like it. You're going to hear collective groans from Falcons fans everywhere. What did it do? It's a smart move. You have to rebuild an entire roster at this point. There's no reason not to start on the offensive line. I know we're all lusting after pass rushers. I know we're all lusting after guys who get after the quarterback and can get sacks. I get it. And there's no reason not to be lusting after that position because it's super important. But I'll make an argument that offensive line may be more important, especially when you're about to take a young quarterback here in the next year or two, even this year, possibly, that you're going to give reps to try and play in the NFL. So I'm okay with them taking a quarterback at 8. I obviously, you're going to be open to second guessing. Obviously, Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith are hitching their collective employment futures onto that pick, and that's okay. It really is okay. If you have the trust and the faith of ownership, then it's okay to roll the dice. As I said repeatedly, I like GMs who swing big. I'm okay if they miss big. Totally okay with it. That's how you end up with Super Bowls. That's how you end up with championship trophies, is by taking big risks. It's the only way it happens. It doesn't happen very slowly. It doesn't happen. I mean, theoretically, it could happen slowly and over a long, long course of time, but that's probably not what fans are willing to wait for. You're willing to wait when you're a team that's perennially in the playoffs every year and has a chance to win a Super Bowl every year. When you're the Falcons, when you're the Lions, when you're the Browns, you don't like to wait around. When you're the Chargers, you don't like to wait around. When you're the Texans, you're not going to wait around. It's just not going to happen. So the Falcons have, and Terry Fontenot, have a very, very tough job in front of them. I don't envy him. I really, really don't. And while I don't really get a good feeling one way or another of what they're going to do, I get a sense that they should be smarter than their predecessors. And what I mean by that is not take the flashy thing that everybody's lusting after. Take the smart thing that helps rebuild your roster. And that could be a quarterback, by the way. Absolutely could be a quarterback. I just hope that the choice that they make is one that really works for them and one that is the first major building block in turning this organization around. That you'll look back on the 2022 draft and go, that's really where it started for the Atlanta Falcons in the turnaround, was that one draft pick. But again, I'll also remind you, don't get so hung up on one draft pick. This whole thing is about the entire draft. All these guys are going to get a chance to make the team. They're all going to get a chance to play if they do make the team, because the Falcons need bodies. You got $50 million in dead cap space. You need cheap bodies. And the draft is the cheapest way to go. Those dudes in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round, they're going to play. They're going to get chances. They're going to be on the roster, most likely, because you can't afford anybody else. And you may as well keep them because you invested the draft capital in them. It's going to be a very important draft all around. Don't get hung up on 8. 8's super important. 8's the one that will second guess repeatedly. No one's going back and saying, that 3rd round pick they took, so-and-so is available 27 picks later in the 4th round. No one second guesses that, right? Because once you get out of the 1st round, it's so super subjective for so many things, and nobody is really smart enough to know this guy was rated so much higher on draft boards. Well, if he was rated so much higher, it wouldn't be a 3rd or 4th round pick. He'd be a 1st or 2nd round pick. It's just where it is. All right, coming up next, we are going to go talk with our good buddy Dave Choate of the Falcoholic. Love those guys, love their staff. They're a lot of fun, and they certainly have a lot of fun at their own expense and the Falcons' expense. He and I will have fun together next. You're watching and listening to A to Z right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta.